Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the sports betting show hosted by a real statistics professor. This is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. We've got Major League Baseball picks on the way. Jake, for people looking at the screen, no change really from yesterday. I just had that one extra pick. I haven't completely got everything in from Tuesday yet, and some of those games are still finishing up right now. It's kind of looking like a ho-hum run-of-the-mill day. So far. But Jake, is this a first baseball show we've done together this season, or is it the second? I feel like you and I are like ships passing in the night with Cousin Jared on this thing.
Yeah, I think all the ones I've done has been with Cousin Jared this year. I don't know that I think this is the first time we've actually been able to connect.
Yes, it's college basketball when we did, Sweet 16 and Elite 8 or whatever. I can't remember exactly how deep we went on that. But all right, well, we've got some good ones for you here, hopefully today. And again, as we talk about, we are constantly thinking about the long term when we talk about that. That's this slide right here, that when the sample size gets big enough, that's how we know we're doing well. The individual stuff is really hard to predict, and we always preach that. And that's why I think we have such a great Discord community, because the people over there, they've heard the things here that I'm saying, and we understand this. And that doesn't mean we can't complain. And that doesn't mean that things don't always go well, or we're not everything's, whatever. It just means that we understand, the long run, and that's how this goes. And there are going to be ups and downs. And it's such a great community over there. And that's one of the things you get if you're with us on Dub Club. Half price on your first month with the link in the show description. Jake, tell the people why they should be on Dub Club in your opinion.
Well, it's just loaded with all sorts of good information. Not only the stuff the model puts out, but the stuff you're putting in the Discord, plus all the other people that, like the other cappers you got giving out picks, soccer, WNBA starting up here soon, even a lot of player props going through. It's just loaded with ways
playoff basketball, playoff hockey.
It's just loaded with ways to make money, and you'll flip it. You'll flip what you pay real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love how we talk about the model. We've personified it like it's a person that has thoughts and feelings and whatnot. So
it does.
This is my Frankenstein, or I'm Frankenstein, or it's Frankenstein's monster. I don't know. There's always something that we always screw that up with, whatever it is. Or quick reminders: it's a player-based model. Ratings reflect the current roster. The average grade's 100 higher, implies more runs. We are predicting the average game, and that's what we talked about. There are ups and downs. These one games, you have no idea what's going to happen. And so we're talking about a typical game, and that's why everything's relative to the price, relative to the number, relative to the odds. And that's the thing, is we anchor everything there. We are betting teams. Yes, you are betting teams and the number that goes with them, not just one or the other. It's not just the number, because the team has to cover the number, but it's not just the team, because that number can make a huge difference. And we are not talking about one today, but there is a team that we are backing here on Wednesday that I gave out as a B grade honorable mention that I like. And I was thinking to myself, this reminds me of that situation we were talking about yesterday with Cousin Jared about the San Jose Sharks, right? They're terrible, but sometimes those terrible teams in the right spots can make you money, and you got to find those spots. And we've got one of those for you here on Wednesday, a stinker that still might be profitable. But again, it's all because of the price. It's not because anything else. It's just because we're getting such a good price. And so with that said, we'll start off here. Phillies and the Mets. Day baseball, of course, back for your Wednesday. And folks, I mean, cutting right to the chase. Anytime you get a chance to back Zach Wheeler at a price like minus 113, it's really hard to pass up. Yes, they are on the road, and yes, this Mets team is really good. But David Peterson, he's had a strong start to the season, and it's not like it's been fluky. The underlying metrics for him are strong, but I mean, we just have a lot of data on both these pitchers. Zach Wheeler's the much better pitcher, right? Like, let's just not get too carried away here. The model likes the Phillies relievers a lot, has them third in baseball with the Mets relievers. Again, good. Mets offense, good, but the Phillies offense just as good right there with them, and that's the bottom line is, yeah, it's in New York, but Zach Wheeler being Zach Wheeler at a price like minus 113, I just feel like he can't pass it up. That was my thought on this, Jake. What was yours?
Yeah, that was my exact thought. If I can back Wheeler, I'm going to back him if the price is like relatively normal, because he's incredible. That Phillies offense is very, very good, stacked from 1 through 9, and they also have great relievers behind him. So when he bows out, the drop off isn't that much. I don't trust Peterson. Don't trust this Mets offense to come through day after day. I haven't seen the consistency yet, especially against when you're going, possibly one of the best pitchers going right now in Zach Wheeler, who used to be a Met. I don't know why they couldn't hold on to him.
Yeah, I think there were some injury concerns at the time, and it's funny because of course since then he's been just the model of consistent health. He's like the only pitcher in that stretch that hasn't succumbed to Tommy John. Like everybody else is at something or something related to that, in some way, shape, or form. It seems like. But yes, the bottom line is this Mets team is good. There's no disrespect to them, and they are right now winning. It is very late. They probably have finished off here winning the first here 2 games of the series. That actually probably works in our favor a little bit on this one. That doesn't necessarily imply that we are going to win. But anytime you have a team, on the getaway day, having lost the first 2, it typically helps you out. Why? Because their better relievers tend to have not pitched and tend to be more likely to go, whereas the other team's better relievers, if they've won, tended to have pitched, and thus they might be a little bit less likely to go. You never know if that's going to be the case. Of course, I haven't looked at the box score yet, so please, if that's not the case, don't yell at me. I'm just saying in general, that little zigzaggy kind of thing tends to work a little bit in baseball because of the way teams play. Also, the lineup situation, the Mets having won the first 2 games, day game. Oh, maybe this is a day to give Soto off. I don't know. Right now, guy probably wants to play every single day. So maybe not. Maybe it's a bad example, but maybe it's Lindor gets a day off, or maybe it's Lindor DHs and thus someone else. I don't know what it may be, but you just have the possibility of something else better happening for you. So Phillies minus 113 to start us off in the daytime. And as always, like to give you a little sneak peek of what you get on Dub Club, all the information, all the ratings, all the projections, all the stats, all the stuff the model thinks, all the thresholds, and a partridge and a pear tree. I guess it's April. So it's like the worst time of year to say that probably, because at least if it was in the fall, we're getting closer. Summer, you have like
So far
half
away.
Christmas, but it's
so far away.
I tried. Mariners and Red Sox will be our second game here, 6:45 p.m. Eastern. First pitch, mid-upper 60s to start, low 60s to finish. A slight breeze, but really nothing that's going to affect anything. Should stay really low. It might not even be out. It might be more across. So the wind's going to not really be a factor. The temperature is not going to be much of a factor either. It's a little bit of a cooler night, but for April, it's not. April nights in Boston could easily be down in the 40s. So a night in the 60s is a nice night in Boston, especially for April. So it's going to be decent enough weather in this situation. Not a day game with the hot kind of thing, but decent enough. Not going to make it more pitcher friendly. And of course, it starts off, thankfully, for us hitter friendly. Why is that? Because we're going to go over 9.5. Jake, the model projects 10.5. It's a full run differential. Look, to me, on the bottom line is 2 things. Number one, and they kind of relate. Number one, I tended to find last year on these overnight totals that assuming I updated the weather in the evening, now if I did the projections too early the day before, sometimes the weather was a little bit more off, but assuming I updated the projections for the weather in the evening, these weird numbers like the 9.5s, if the model said go over, you tended to wake up the next morning to it being 10. Especially the fact that right now it's 9.5 minus 120. I don't know that, but it's more likely than not that's where this is going. It's going to get to 10. And in a situation like this with Boston, and we got to 11 runs here on Tuesday night, it might even get up to 10.5 where the model thinks it should be. That's one reason why I think leads me to my second point. What I noticed is last year I was a little bit more afraid to take those at the start of the season, these over 9.5s and the model said to, and they tended to just do really well. And I think it's because I've actually built that into the threshold. For the model to say go over 9.5, it has to be one of the really strong ones. And I think that's why these tend to perform well. And so that's why we like backing them. That's coming up from the analytical standpoint, Jake. From a more X's and O's standpoint, what do you have for us?
I think Boston's offense is waking up. Bregman has been hot here. Devers is not striking out for every other at bat, or two out of 3 times when he's up now. Plus, you've got I don't know if it's possible to get a worse pitching matchup, but this is batting practice pitchers. I've been on the Sean Newcomb train when he was in Braves, and it's not gotten any better. Hancock here is you're showing us what the worst starter out there. It's not good.
He's a young guy, but he's not ready yet, which is what it is.
The relievers aren't anything to write home about, especially in Boston. I just don't see a way anybody contains runs here. I mean, you can't guarantee anything, but this feels like one that puts up a real couple innings with a real crooked numbers.
Yeah, it was just kind of what we had here on Tuesday, and I expect a similar situation. Obviously, it's more likely to go in the Red Sox' favor when Emerson Hancock is pitching. Unfortunately, again for him, he's had a rough start to the season, a rough year last year. Young guy might turn it around. He definitely, has some people who really believe highly in him, and so of course he may do better. But for right now, it's going to be a rough day against a decent Red Sox offense, like you said, that may be figuring it out, and Sean Newcomb. Obviously, nothing to write home about. But the thing here I want to summarize with is the Mariners, their offense. The model still says they're number 6 in baseball. And I want to contrast that to their relievers that are ranked number 18. And that would really tell you what we've been preaching all along about the impact of T-Mobile Park in Seattle, that the Mariners offense is actually pretty good. The problem this year has been the pitching. That's been what's falling off. In years past, when they've been more dominant, their starters have done better and their relievers have been top 5. At times they've had the best relief corps in baseball, really up there with the Clevelands and the Minnesotas, these teams, the Braves, who've been up there consistently in the top 5. And this year, the relievers have really taken a step back. That's partially just who's on the roster. That's partially how they've started off the season. Their starting pitching hasn't done as well either. They had incredible starting pitching health with their top guys who all stayed healthy, and they didn't have a lot of depth behind them. And this is that depth they're now having to get into. And now when you get into that depth, your deal with the devil apparently on your starting pitching health has expired. Your relievers have taken a step back. You're still scoring. What does that mean? That means you're going to be a decent baseball team. You're going to win some games. You're going to lose some games. If you're a Mariners fan, you're probably saying, yeah, they're kind of frustrating right now. And you know what? We don't have to care, because all we have to say is, you know what, though? They're the type of team that's going to do more offensively and less, in this case, kind of defensively. But when they play all their games in Seattle, it's a misperception. And I think that's why we had the over in Boston here. We had the first 5 over as well on Tuesday, and we hit them both. And that's why I think the model likes us here. I think the market thinks this Mariners offense isn't that good. The market thinks these Mariners relievers are, and the model is saying, we've been saying this for years. We've been being proven right for years that it's this part that matters, and we have a great handle on how to grade them, and we're going to continue to trust that the model is doing that, in that we're saying, hey, this Mariners offense is the problem, folks. It's the pitching, and that bodes really well when they get out of T-Mobile into Fenway Park, one of the most hitter-friendly ballparks in the country. I feel like I should say, what do you say at the end of a sermon? Hallelujah, amen. I don't know where else to go from there. I feel like that's getting heated there. Rangers and A's. Jake, I love these days when we give out the 3 picks, so we get to have a day game, a night game, and then a late one here. Of course, a normal game if you are on the West Coast, but a late game for us East Coasters, as they'll get going at 10:05 Eastern. A pretty normal night in Sacramento, to be honest. This is where we talked about this ballpark may play very hitter-friendly. In the cases where it's going to play only quasi-hitter-friendly, it's probably on a night like this, where it's an average night, mid-60s, going to close in the upper 50s. So the ball's not going to carry quite as much, but you are going to get a little bit of a wind blowing out. The wind does tend to blow out there. So it's going to play hitter-friendly, and it's been playing hitter-friendly even in cool conditions. And when you get the right warm conditions, it's going to get some really high-scoring games. This one maybe doesn't set up to be one of those 23-run games, but in that park, you tend to see runs, little wind blowing out here, and then you look at these teams, the model thinks both of these offenses are good. Both these pitchers are decent, but we're going to see some runs, and I love in a game where we're going to see some runs. What does that mean? I love that variance, right? Because you never really know what's going to happen, and we get to take the team that we think is probably the better team in the Rangers. We get to play them at minus 105 in a situation where the big advantage for the A's is supposed to be that they're home. And I think that's not an advantage. I think it's just going to make the game a little bit weirder. Not like Denver. In Denver, it makes the game weirder, but there's altitude. That helps the players because they're used to it. That helps them with the pitchers and the spin, and hitters know what they're looking for. It really helps them. But here, I don't think there's any edge. I think it's just going to turn into a weird game. And so it's like, hey, if it's going to get weird and the big home edge is gone, minus 105 for the better team, why not? We're going to take the Rangers. And from a mathematical standpoint, the model agrees and thinks they win 57% of the time. We're going to back Kumar Rocker against JP Sears. Jake, Sears has started off looking good from an ERA standpoint. The underlying metrics are a little more concerned. but really high on Rocker. I was high on him last time. I said I thought he could have a good outing. He did, and the underlying metrics are really kind to him. They still are, and maybe they're going to pull that ERA down. The model thinks Rocker's the better pitcher. That's why the model likes it. I'm assuming you're in the same boat, knowing you watched a little bit of him when he was in college.
Yeah, I mean, he was absolutely dominant at Vandy, and that's a big reason I like here. And even if he has one of those bad games where he gives up a bunch of runs, the Rangers' offense is good enough to absolutely cover that. And like you said, the underlying metrics on Sears aren't there. The Rangers are a team that can really take advantage of that. I mean, Seager absolutely is crushing it right now, and you have Garcia who's doing really well. If Simeon ever wakes up, that offense is very, very powerful. I like the advantage in the relievers, so in the late innings, I like leaning that way with the Rangers, even though they're on the road, which I'm not sure how much that matters right now because the A's got to be getting used to that park just the same as every other team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And fans aren't there, so I don't know that there's really a home field advantage as much here. I just like this Rangers team. I think they're built well, and as they get rolling here, especially like if Rocker pitches the way I believe he will, he could be dominant here and really shut the A's down.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say too at the start. Like, I just think there's no home edge here, and there's nothing that they can even do, I think, to figure it out, right? Because your home edges you figure out by saying, well, what type of hitter does our park suit? Well, maybe they'll figure that out eventually, sort of acquiring those players, I guess. But otherwise, there's not really much you can do other than the home advantage. It's just the travel and that sort of stuff. But, the fans, which wouldn't be there in this case because there's not going to be 40,000 screaming fans, are a huge detriment to, this A's team having nobody to play in front of. And yeah, like you said, no one really understands this park, so everyone's on different footing. So it's just, why not? I just don't understand. You get the better team here at -105. The one thing I want to wrap up here with, I keep saying, better team, and I just want to make sure people catch this, right? Because yes, the Rangers offense has struggled this season, but I want to remind people again that the model has the A's here right now at number 7. It's a top 10 offense still. The model's not disrespecting the A's offense. And even if it's a little bit high on the Rangers, the only reason it would be high on the Rangers is because you would say they've struggled this year. And I would say that's true, but when you look back at it, like, yes, you had the whole back-to-back 1-0 games, right? And that was super, super weird. But, they had back-to-back games in Chicago where they put up 6, right? They played 3 games in Seattle, and their pitchers got hit up a little bit. But they didn't score much. But again, we talked about Seattle, right? They had some lower scoring games this last week at home, but I mean, we know this team has, like you said, some talent, some of these guys. So it's not like it's not there. And I think there's some reason why some of those games were lower scoring. I don't think it's all like they're just can't hit now and they've all lost it, right? So I think if you're looking at how they've done this season and you say they've underperformed a little bit, I don't think there's really cause for concern in that regard. And I think I'd point as an example to tonight. We're here recording this here Tuesday night. They just started. The Rangers already put up 2 runs here in the first inning. So again, their offense can score runs. So like you said, I like backing Rocker, and then I like backing this Rangers offense because if they're being disrespected this early, why not take them? And of course, the last thing is that the model's been liking the A's lately. So anytime it flips, like Cousin Jared and I always talk about, that's a fun thing. Jake, I feel like we need to have some sort of side wager on if I can predict which games you will pick coming on the show, because I knew when I was going through it with QMR Rocker going that you would be on this game. I just felt like I knew it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little easier to figure out during baseball because I've got certain pitchers that I like to back. That's typically my strategy.
And
an unnatural amount of control on a game.
Yes, absolutely. And hey, that's been my strategy with a certain I shall leave him unnamed right here pitcher, but we've talked about him for a year now. I've talked about him on Dub Club. I talked about him here on Discord. So if you're with us on Dub Club, I mentioned it Dub Club. I mentioned it tonight. You know who I'm talking about. And it's that thing where it's like you just find certain guys and you're like, if the model, I treat it where it's like, hey, if the model says any edge whatsoever, or even you don't have a negative edge, I'm like, let's go for it. Like, let's do it, because these are the guys that every time you can back them, you want to, because it works out well and it's been profitable for you. So when you can find those guys in the right spots, I just like to think that's why we use the model to help us anchor in to say, make sure we aren't overpaying at some point. And so I think that's really what it boils down to.
that and your eyes don't lie to you. You may, like, just in case Rocker's fake good a couple games and lets us know that he's not actually that good or something like that.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I was thinking about this too, and I mentioned it to you, so I would mention this to our viewers as your reward if you're still sticking around here at the 20-minute mark for us. The way, if you kind of want to get into my head, when you see the full list of plays, if you're with us over on Dub Club, the A grades that are the top plays are the A grades I really like. The A grades that I leave as honorable mentions, those are the ones that I'm more just trusting the model that I don't really know as much of. I don't really have a feel quite as well, but it's like, hey, the model says it, so let's do it. And then the B grades that are honorable mentions are the B grades where I'm like, hey, the edge isn't quite there, but I think this is the right spot. Let's do it. And we try to be selective with those. We talked about that last night with Cousin Jared, kind of back in the Dodgers, back in the Yankees, some of those. If it's a B grade, we just say, yes, let's do it because we never get the chance to. And for me, that pitcher's that kind of thing. And I think for you, Rocker, would be that kind of thing. But even this, the model says A grade. So it's like even a double advantage when you get the A grade to go on top of that, right?
Oh, yeah. That makes me feel real good.
Absolutely. All right. So you get Rangers minus 105 there, as the model says it should be minus 134. That'll do it for us here on this Wednesday hump day here. Hopefully this will help get you through. Again, if you want just the A grade plays from the model, 99 cents for your first month with the link in the show description. Discord access, we'll be working on that to make sure everybody can get in there for free. We'll have an extra free pick or two a day in there as well. So that's again still coming. So hang with us on that. And again, the link in the show description has some social media links if you're interested. Otherwise, Jake, parting words for the people.
Hey, the best way to keep up to date and when the free Discord channel happens and any other promotions that come out, follow us on all those social medias because that'll be blasted out everywhere. It'll be the first place to find out about them.
Absolutely. And again, I know as we get done at this point, people have already signed off and moved on to the next video. And I don't disrespect at all. I get you there. But if you're still with us here, that is a good reminder. Again, we will have a lot of things shifting here, hopefully over the summer for the better, adding some features, adding a bunch of stuff here and there, and just continuing to make the product better and better. And so a lot of things to keep up with and a lot of good changes to come. As always, we thank you so much for watching. We wish you the best of luck and remind you, while you can eat your betting money, please don't bet your eating money.